So I hope you've given this challenge a go, and it's an entirely optional challenge as well, so it's not obligatory to do it because we're not actually covering anything new by adding the functionality for a user to edit their profile. But what I'm going to do is just show you how we can achieve the functionality that I just demonstrated, and you can add this to your app if you haven't already done this. If you did succeed at this and it's working for you, please feel free to skip the solution, because it doesn't matter if your solution is identical to mine. There's every chance that it won't be, and our main goal is just to get this functionality working. But what I'm going to do is demonstrate the code that I use to get this particular functionality working. And what we've got in our app user, and we've already got this from what we did earlier, is we added a bio into our app user. And we're not adding any additional properties, we're not capturing any additional data, we're really just keeping this part as simple as possible. Just simply the display name and the bio is the only thing we're going to allow the users to edit. And speaking of editing, there's an edit.cs class that I've added inside my application profiles namespace. And just like any other command handler, I've given it a very simple name called edit. And inside the command, we're taking the two properties that we're allowing the user to edit, the display name and the bio. I've also added a command validator using Fluent Validation. And because we're not insisting the user enters a bio when they register to our application, we're not going to make this compulsory. But the display name we always want to have something for. So we are just using a command validator to prevent this from being deleted. Inside the handler, just the normal classes being injected here, the data context and the user accessor. And this is obviously so that we can get access to the user's token and get their username from that. And then inside the logic for the handler, and we're just returning a unit here. We're not actually going to return the profile for the user from this command. And what we're doing is we're getting the user from our context based on their user token and their current username. And then we're just updating the user.displayname or the user bio based on what they're sending in for the request. Now if it's blank, and admittedly the display name, it's not possible for this to be blank because they won't get this far, but I've just left this check in anyway just for the request.displayname or the user.displayname. But technically we don't need this, and we could just set this to the request.displayname because that will always be there. And then we've got our request.bio, or if it's empty, we'll just make sure it's set to the user.bio. And then we're going to save our changes, just as per normal. And then in the profiles controller for the API endpoint, I've just got an HTTP put. And same as normal, very thin, simple, dumb controller. We're just going to take our command and pass it via mediator to our edit command in the application profiles namespace. And by this point, what you should be able to do is go across to Postman, log in as Bob and save the token. In Module 18, there's 3 requests in here just to help out. And we're just going to log in as Bob and save the token, and we'll get our token. And then we've got an option to update the user bio, and all this is a put request to API/profiles, and in the body we have the ability to send an update to the user's profile, and not much is going on here, just some simple text to update the bio in this case. And if we click send, what we should get back is a 200 OK response. And then when we get the user's profile and click send, then this time we get an updated profile in the bio. So that's the API side of things. And what I'll go through now is what you need to do, or what I've done on the client side, to get this functionality working in there. So let's go and take a look at the client side code that I've added. And we'll start off with the agent and work our way upwards. And inside the agent.ts file is just a method in here to update the profile. Now for the profile type, I've used the partial version of iProfile. And then in the profile store, I've just got a little method to update the profile. And we take in our profile. And then we pass this via our agent.profiles, which is going to call a method to send this up to our API. Now inside our action here, there's just two things going on. First of all, we're checking to see if the display name has been updated, and we're going to compare it to the userstore.user display name. And if it has been updated, then we want to update our display name in here to the newly updated display name, because we're displaying this in various places in our application, including the navbar. And then what we're doing is we're updating the properties in list.profile with what's being passed in here. And what we can do here is use the spread operator to take all of the properties in list.profile and spread them across, and then overwrite them with the properties contained or updated in our profile here. And then we're just displaying a toast if there's an error. And what we have then is the profile description. This is going to be what's contained or what's displayed in our profile content. So we start with a tab pane. And just to demonstrate what this is, inside our profile content, just as we did with the photos, we've just replaced the tab pane completely with the profile description. Also, we need to remove the active index from this so we can actually start switching between our different tabs on the right hand side again. And then inside the profile description, we've done a very similar thing here to what we were doing with the photos. In order to get the button displayed correctly, I've just put this inside a grid, and the header and the button are going inside the first column, and we're using our isCurrentUser computed property to decide whether or not to display the button. And also inside here, what we have is we're bringing in our profile store, and we're bringing in update profile, and isCurrentUser from our profile store. And I've just got some local state here to set to the edit mode, which is going to be just a Boolean value. So this button is going to set the edit mode to the opposite of what the edit mode is currently is. And then inside our grid column, our second grid column, we've either got the profile edit form if we're in the edit mode, or just a simple span to display the user's profile. Nothing too extreme going on inside here. It's just really the simplest possible profile update that we can have, just the single span for the text inside here. And then inside the profile edit form, what we are using, as per normal, is React Final Form and Final Form fields. We're also using revalidate, so we've got the combined validators and is required. And all we're checking for inside here is really just the display name to make sure this is set always, because that's the validation we've got on our server as well. And then I've got the interface for the two props that we're passing to our profile edit form from the profile description. So we're passing the update profile and the profile from the store in here as well. And in our profile edit form, we've got these as our props that we're passing in and destructuring. And then we've just got the final form set up. So we've got our onSubmit method, which is going to be the update profile that we're getting from our store, then the validate method, and the initial values is just going to be set to our profile. And then we've got the render props that we're passing in from final form. So we've got our handle submit methods, invalid, pristine, and submitting. And our form onSubmit is just using the onSubmit method of the form, and then we're passing in the handle submit we're getting from final form. And then we've just got two fields inside here. One's a text area input and one's a text input. And then we've got the button, which is using the submitting we're getting from final form for the loading indicator. And the content is just to update the profile. And once you've got all this in place, you should then be able to go back to the browser and test the functionality. And I'm just on Bob's profile, and if I just refresh this particular page and click Edit Profile, we get taken to the Edit Profile form. And once you get here, you should be able to update the profile, and I'll just say Bob's biography updated and click Update Profile. And that's now persisted. I'll be able to refresh this page. And what you should find as well is when you change the user's display name, and I'll just change it to Bobby in this case, and we update profile, then we should find that all of the areas where we're using the display name should also update as well. And I'll click Update Profile, and all three of these display names have been updated as well. So I hope you gave this a go and were successful. Like I say, it doesn't matter if yours is completely different to mine. As long as it works and the functionality works, then that's what we're looking for at this stage. And what we're going to look at next is we're going to deal with the event chats in our application. And each activity is going to have its own chat system. And we're going to do this in a different way to what we've been doing before. And we're going to introduce something called Signal R. And that's coming up in the next section.